Man, I don't know if I should do this, but fuck it, let's do it. I'm about to crash out. This is the Pop Out, and I'm Albert Shin. And today's episode is going to be one that's going to probably make a lot of people angry, namely the people who make money off of providing help for people, for students on SATs, on college admissions, et cetera, et cetera. But, screw it. We need to talk about this. This is important. Now, I want to make a note from the very beginning. I cannot speak to what is happening across all of the different private industries that offer help to students for everything ranging from like tutoring services to classes on how to take the SATs or et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm going to speak strictly from my experience. I have taught at, let's see, one, two, three, four different private academies. They were primarily targeted, five actually, now I think about it, primarily targeted towards suburban middle class students who had high ambitions, but also whoever else could really pay for those services. And I've done everything from tutoring services to college consultation to helping with college essays, just a range of services, AP tests, preparing students for that. And I've come to learn a few things that, I think over the years, reflecting on it, that I now am completely unhappy with. Unhappy with in mainly because I think one, it's grounded in half truths and lies. But second of all, I think it doesn't actually put the students first. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about what some of this actually is. And we might have to break it down to kind of different services you are looking for. Um, Let me start off by tutoring. Okay. The industry of tutoring, right? Okay. So here's the thing, if you are struggling with a particular subject, and this could be at any grade level, right? Any grade level, you're looking for somebody who could help you better understand whatever it is that you are struggling with, right? So let's say you're taking a history class, you're like, I'm having trouble understanding history. One of the things you might do is, I want to get my grades up. I'm going to find somebody who could help me make sense of this, help me learn so that I could get a better grade, right? Okay. So far, seems perfectly fine. Okay, this is where I think the tutoring industry takes a left turn. A lot of people don't necessarily know what they should be looking for, right? So if you are looking for a tutor and you're thinking, oh, I need somebody who knows something about this particular topic, and maybe you might be thinking, I want somebody who is experienced, okay? You could use word of mouth and rely on somebody that somebody else recommends, somebody you trust. You're like, oh yeah, they help with your student, your kid. Maybe they could help my kid, right? Okay, so it could be word of mouth. It could be you go through a website. It could be you go through an institution, right? Some of these academies, after school programs, have options to hire a one-on-one tutoring. Usually the academy will take a cut and the tutors get paid a portion of what you pay, right? Okay, so the question is this: how do you know you're getting a good tutor? Well, this is the hard part, okay? Word of mouth, we tend to rely on other people's testimony, but of course, who knows, right? Like you'll see results from students and it has nothing to do with the actual teaching of the tutor, right? Like the tutor didn't really do much. The student just was a little bit more disciplined because you scheduled time to get some work done, right? Um, so word of mouth can be tricky. You don't know if you could trust the person, if it might not apply because circumstances might differ between the other student that they've tutored versus your kid, right? Okay. So that's one issue. You can try going to academies, but they're going to push whoever they can to go ahead and make sure that you come to them for those services because there's monetary gain to be had. and then you could try to find people online. There's sites where you could, tutors will go up there and offer their services, and then you hire them off the spot. Like, and then you're going to ask for qualifications, right? You might ask them like, oh, what do you, specialize in? Like, what is your tutoring experience and so on. But here's the thing. Teaching is a very particular skill set. Teaching as a skill set is not the same thing as learning or knowing a lot about a particular topic. Now, the two sometimes go hand in hand, right? If you don't know it, then it's going to be hard for you to teach it, right? But in all the years of teaching, what I've learned is that teaching is a distinct skill that is not the same as just simply knowing about a particular topic. All right, so let's go back to the history example, right? You might have somebody who is very well read in history, maybe even got a PhD in history. They know a lot about history, okay? Teaching that to a, eighth grader, ninth grader, that's a separate skill set. And that you need somebody who knows A, how to teach generally, B, how to teach specifically to the particular age group, right, that they're actually working with, okay? And C, do it in a way that is effective because they actually connect with the student, right? And this is actually an important aspect of tutoring, right? You need to, the teacher, the tutor needs to actually connect with the student. That, I mean, you should be working on trial and error here because you're not sure exactly what you're going to get. Okay. You're not sure exactly what you're going to get. You can look at a resume and the resume could look wonderful on paper. And then you get them in person and then you see the tutoring session and you're like, oh shit, this is not very effective. Or maybe it is effective, but like it helps you improve your grades and maybe it helps you understand a little bit more. But maybe you're not getting the most bang for your buck, right? So if you hire them for an hour, in that hour, you're not getting as much as you could in an hour. Okay. So here's the thing. I'm talking about this specifically tutors, but I think this could apply across the board with more generally any kind of help you're seeking, right? I personally would like to see a shift in the private education industry. And I want to see a shift in a very radical way. And the way I want to see this shift is that we get away from teaching particular topics in the way that private tutors often do, right? A lot of times a student will go, I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? And then the teacher explains it to them. Tutor explains it to them. They say, oh, okay, I think I get it now. Oh, if I don't get it, let me try to explain a different way. Here, right? Okay. I actually think that part of the problem is that we are actually focused on teaching to the particular subject that the student is struggling with. And the reason I don't like this approach in teaching is that it actually might be effective in short term, but one of the things you're going to realize is you're going to have to rely on somebody to help you again and again and again and again, right? You're going to be a repeat customer. You're going to have to shell out a lot of money because guess what? You understand that particular thing that they helped you with now, but then a week later when they learn something new and they don't get that, they're going to come back and you're going to have to go back and seek more help, right? So I want to talk about seeking help and particularly in the way that we approach the way that we seek help. What are we looking for? What are we actually looking for? Okay. If your goal is to get a quick fix, then this is perfectly fine. I have nothing against it. You go ahead and do it. Okay. But my guess is that if you're struggling with something in your class or on an exam, a standardized test, right? If you're struggling in some part of your academics, then most likely it's because there's something about your approach to learning, right? The specific topic is merely a symptom of something deeper going on in the way that you learn the material you are expected to learn, right? So let me give you an example, right? Suppose you're studying history and you're like, I'm having trouble understanding all of these facts and trying to remember all of these details of how it is that what happened first and when it happened and how it impacted this and that. That's partly because my guess, right, this would be my suspicion, is that you're focused on the details. But when you're studying history, that's actually not the first place to start. The first place to start is actually the narrative. It's the story. It's the story of who is doing what to whom and why. It's the story of how did these two countries get into conflict in the first place? Why do these people love each other, hate each other? Why are these groups allies and not, right? Like that, the bigger picture is where you should start before you dive into the nitty gritty details. But that shift in your approach, if that's not addressed, then you're going to constantly struggle with history. You're just going to constantly struggle with it, right? And this is the thing. Each topic has a unique approach because of the nature of the stuff that you're learning, right? Like, so in the sciences, you're going to approach it a little differently. You're going to study it a little differently because the topic is different and it's going to require a different part of your brain to be activated in a different way. So if you seek a tutor who is just merely telling you how to do the thing that is immediately in front of you, you're not addressing the deeper roots of your struggles. And when you don't address those deeper roots, you're going to constantly be seeking help. You're going to constantly be seeking help inside the classroom, outside the classroom, etc. What's going to be better for you in the long run is to actually address why it is that you're struggling so much and fix that, right? Fix your learning habits, fix your study habits, right? Like fix whatever it is. And it could be a range of things, right? It could be like emotional well-being. It could be like family life. It could be, whatever it is that you're struggling with, like whatever that is that's hindering you from learning, that's the thing that needs to be addressed. Now, people don't want to do this. People don't want to do this, I think, for several reasons. I'm not going to guess as to why you might have not wanted to do it in the first place, but some of the common things I've heard from students of mine are: one, it's hard. Two, let's see. Oh, so it's hard. Let's see. It's going to take too long, right? I'm not going to see immediate results. Three, I think I've seen something like, oh, but how can I trust that it's actually going to work? It doesn't feel like it's going to work, right? Okay. Look, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, right? The results you get should be an indicator of whether or not your study habits are actually yielding is actually a good way to go. Because if you're using the right methods, you should be seeing good results, right? If you're not using the right methods, you'll know fairly quickly within a week or two whether or not that method is not effective at all. Okay. In recent years, in my one-on-one sessions with students, I have shifted completely away from talking about a specific topic to addressing the root of their inability to grasp the concept, right? And what I found is that in working with students, if they use the right approach, they feel the effects immediately, right? Right? You know how you have those moments when you're like, I understand it now. And when you understand it, like you could feel the difference because you can explain it in a way you couldn't explain it before. There's clarity in your mind, right? Like people know what it feels like to really grasp something, right? And it's because we don't pay attention to that feeling enough that we're not realizing that there are certain things that we do that are more likely than not to lead up to those kinds of moments, right? So when I focus on the methodology, on the approach with students, what I found is that they experience a difference and then they see the results on actual exams, tests, whatever metric you want to use, right? Essays. And when they see the results, they're motivated to continue using the more effective methods, right? The reason we're seeking help in the first place is because we're having trouble with something. You don't need to constantly be seeking help if you seek the right kind of help. Okay. What I'm saying is, if you seek somebody who could help you address the root of the issue and get over that, whatever that barrier is to your learning, then you don't need the help afterwards, right? Because you're going to be motivated to using good techniques, good study skills, and that's going to continuously feed into this loop of motivating you because you're seeing results. That's really going to be the biggest motivator. You're going to see results. You're going to notice them, right? And honestly, after a few months, you probably won't need the help that you needed before. Okay. Now, like I think a lot of people in the private sector might not like my saying this, right? For one, because they might not know how to provide this help for students. I know that this is a very specialized set of skills, so you're not going to find a lot of tutors who have the kind of self-awareness to know, or to have the background knowledge and having done research in cognitive psychology or some of these areas of study that have demonstrated empirically what kind of methods work best for things like memory or learning big concepts or things like that. So one, a lot of people are just not skilled. A lot of tutors that I found are just people that are straight out of high school, straight out of college. They know nothing about teaching. They just did well in certain subjects and then they know a lot about the topic. And so they think of it as a way to go ahead and earn a quick buck. Um, or they, I mean, again, it could be coming from a genuinely good place. Like they might be, I want to help people, right? But unfortunately, what you need is training in an area where you could be better equipped to help students in the long run if you actually want to be effective. But here's the second reason I think a lot of people are going to hate this. It's that it's gonna really screw up the money, right? Let's be honest. If you need to constantly seek help, that's a steady stream of income for whoever is providing that help, right? But if the business model is I'm going to help you so that you learn how to help yourself, right? Then it's kind of like, well, after a few months, I don't need you, right? So it's gonna be a revolving door of people that you'll be looking. If you're one of these people working in these industries, you're constantly be looking for new students to help, right? Um, and that's not necessarily good for business, right? If you're especially if you're charging an hourly rate, you'll want to keep as many of these students as possible and then continue to take money from them. Okay. Again, I'm not saying there's anything malicious going on. Nobody's going like, right? Like some evil villain here, trying to steal as much of your hard-earned money as possible, to scam you or anything like that. I think a lot of this stuff is unintentional, but I think it stems from the fact that in this industry, there's not really kind of a way to screen people along these metrics that I'm suggesting you should be looking for, right? And I think once you start doing that, once you start asking, right, some of these tutors, right, questions like, how long do you actually have a student for before they could, learn for themselves? Or if you ask them questions like, what kind of training or knowledge do you have about how to study well, right? In a way that is backed by empirical data, not just your personal experience, not just some stuff that you've looked up online or heard about. I could do that on my own, but I want to know, right? Like this is what you'd be paying for. You'd be paying for somebody who's an expert in this particular area of helping you to learn yourself, right? And the reason I'm stressing this shift so much is that I think a lot of people, especially from out of the United States, uh, in the United States, the people who have been to college, I think they might be able to tell their kids or people they know that this is, for the most part, true. But in college, a lot of the learning happens outside of the classroom. The lecture helps you make sense of the stuff that you're learning or you should be learning on your own, right? But a lot of the learning happens on your own, right? When you go to college, it's like you go to class for a few hours a day, like, and the rest of the time you're supposed to be self-studying, right? Sometimes a teacher is not even going to be helpful. Lectures weren't not helpful. You just study yourself. You get into a habit of teaching yourself. If you don't know how to do that well while you're in high school, first, you're going to struggle in high school. But second, that struggle is going to carry over later on in college, in life, right? Because you're constantly going to have to learn how to help yourself, to learn how to learn so that you can adjust to whatever the circumstances are going to give you, but also be able to seek out and ask the right kinds of questions to help you help better whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Okay. So first things first, right? When you're seeking help, I would hope that you stop going based off of resume, accolades, etc., unless it's actually relevant. But specifically, I would hope that you are screening specifically for teaching ability, people who have taught before, who have experience teaching, but also that they have taught students in a way that has helped students learn for themselves, where they could study independently. They didn't need a tutor anymore. They didn't need, some academy or after school program in order for them to learn. Okay. I'm hoping that makes some sense. Okay. Which brings me to one of my most hated enemies in the private education sector, which is these SAT and actually any standardized tests academies, right? SAT, AP exams, all these things that students are preparing for in order to improve their chance of getting into college. But also once you get into college, right? If you're trying to go to law school, right? The LSAT classes and so on. Okay. Whew, let me back up before I start going on a cuss riddled rant here. Okay. All right. Look, there is such a thing as learning how to take tests well. Okay. There is such a thing as learning some concepts that are going to be helpful for taking certain kinds of exams, right? For instance, if you're taking an AP English literature test, like you should be familiar with a range of literature because it's going to be covered on the test, right? Okay, so I understand the need to seek out help, okay? I'm going to tell you this. All the help that you actually need are available for free at your local library in the form of all of these Barron and was it Princeton Review books that you could borrow. You don't even need to purchase them. You could borrow them from your local library. If you don't know your local library, get familiar with them, right? They have a lot of free resources. It's really nice, okay? You can just borrow it. You don't even have to, and then actually read through it, okay? Because here's the thing. The SAT class is not going to tell you anything different than what those books cover. Your AP, class or tutor that you get probably is not going to cover anything different than what is covered in those books. If you're talking about content, the books cover them all. In fact, if you were good about studying on your own, you could probably read through and practice through all of these books and then just take the test and do well. Okay. The information is all there and it's free. Okay. So then why are you paying thousands of dollars for somebody to help you with this particular topic, right? Or that particular test, okay? Because let's be honest, like SATs, people are pouring thousands of dollars. Like I've seen it. I know how much these places make, okay? They make a lot of money. So why are you paying them? Well, here's the thing. It could be for a lot of different reasons. My experience is that with like about half the students that I've taught at these SAT classes, right? About half the students are there because they lack any sort of discipline where they're able to study this material on their own, right? It's not about their inability to learn. They could learn if they wanted to. They're just not motivated to. Like there's a deeper issue going here. A lot of the students that came through the doors for me, like about half of them, were students sent there by parents, and they have it was always like an argument, right? Like the kids didn't want to go, parents forced them to go, right? Okay. Parents are doing what they could because they don't know any better. Well, parents, I'm talking to you right now. I'm going to tell you, let's talk about what could be better, right? Sending them to an SAT class usually is an indication, from my experience, that something else is going on. And one of the primary things that might be going on is that the student just has a hard time actually bogging down and working on this stuff, right? This has to do with time management. This has to do with scheduling. This has to do with motivation. This has to do with a range of things. Sending them to an SAT class is not necessarily going to help with that. It's going to help them get a lot of practice in. And, here's the thing, SAT, classes, those programs, they take credit for the students improving on their SATs, but a lot of bullshit is thrown out in these conversations, right? Like one of the things I hear a lot is, one of the bullshits I hear a lot is, look, your SAT scores went up, right? From the first time you took it till now. Okay. Look, the evidence shows that if you've taken the test a certain number of times, you're just naturally going to do better just from the experience of having taken a lot of practice tests. Your score's going to improve, right? Your score's going to improve. It's probably not going to dip from the first time you take the SATs to the second time, right? They know this. Right? But then they're misleading you into making you think like, oh, we're responsible for your SAT scores going up. No, you just need to take a bunch of practice tests. You just need to get a lay of the timing. You just need to get a feel for what the exam is about, what they cover, right? If you actually take the time to read through a book, your score is probably going to jump significantly, especially if a lot of the information is not covered in, the classes you took elsewhere, right? Like at your school. Okay. So what I'm saying is this. These classes are extremely expensive. And again, it's a patch job for a deeper issue, which is that you're having trouble actually teaching yourself. And again, the why of that could be a whole lot of things. Personally, I honestly think that that money is probably better spent on somebody who can teach you how to learn and or addressing the circumstances that are making it difficult for you to learn. The circumstances, what am I talking about in terms of circumstances? Financial difficulty, family trauma, issues going on in the family. It could be, something else, right? Relationships happen. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Like you go and get into a bad breakup, and then all of a sudden your grades drop. Like that's like it's to be expected, especially for a high school student who doesn't know how to deal with a lot of these like feelings that they might be feeling for the first time. Okay, if you're suffering from any sort of mental health issues, right? Go get a therapist. Therapists are expensive, right? But I guarantee you that'll be money better spent than spending it on all of these academies that are only going to maybe help you with your scores to some degree, right? But at some point, right, it's going to stop being helpful. It's going to stop being helpful, right? For me, I don't know about you, but for me, it feels like a lot of a waste of money and honestly a waste of time because they are very intense, especially the ones over winter and summer breaks. These SAT classes are super intense, extremely time consuming, time that could be honestly better spent elsewhere for the same goals you're trying to accomplish. Okay. Okay. On a similar note, right? Because this look, I'm on the same theme here. I know we're talking about a lot of different things, but I'm trying to stay on the same theme here, which is when you're seeking help, a lot of people are seeking the wrong things. I want to make sure that you're seeking the right things, right? So again, whether it's help with specific exams or whether it's help with a particular topic, the overarching message then is seek somebody who can help you help yourself. Don't seek out, right, help that will only help you in the moment or for that one particular topic, but then you'll need to continue going back to them, right? I think a real good sign of whether or not a tutor is doing a good job or, one of these after school programs are doing a good job is if they get repeat customers, right? If they get somebody coming back to them again and again and again for extended periods, then they're probably not doing a good job. They're probably not doing a good job. All right. I'm going to tell you from my personal experience, because again, like I said, I've been experimenting with this for about a year now, where when I'm helping students one-on-one, I focus strictly on their ability to learn well, right? From my experiences, it takes no more than about 3 months, usually less. So it's usually about, 2 to 3 months of working with a student, working out a lot of kinks, doing some trial and error, see what kind of methods work best for them. Okay. And then after that time, they get bored in my sessions because they feel like they got a handle on it. And that's when I know when they're bored in our sessions together, that's when I know that they're ready to leave the nest or they're able to do this themselves. Some of them will come back to me for a consultation here and there just to go ahead and, because they ran into some new thing or there's like a new topic and there's a new way of learning something or, they want to try out something new or, they're facing a new set of circumstances. So something's shifted and they come back to me. But even then, it's only like 2-3 sessions at most, right? We only meet a couple more times. And after that, they're back to being good on their own. And that's what I would look. I am not trying to just completely shit on all of these programs that are available. Sometimes this is the best thing you've got around you. I get that. Okay. But what I would like is for a lot of these programs to do better. And do better specifically in this way. Because there are too many programs where they hire people based off of credentials, based off of the reputation of the schools they graduated from or the awards they have or X, Y, and Z. But it's not actually reflected in the way that they teach or what they teach or how they teach, right? So we need to actually focus on what matters, which is the teaching part of it. Like, what is it that you are getting when you're seeking help, right? From these people that are so-called experts, okay? And what I'm telling you is that name recognition of university, people word of mouth recommendation, that honestly is not the right indicator of whether or not they're good at what they're doing. What I'm saying is if they're good at what they're doing, you'll see the results. And what I mean by results is that you will never need them again, okay? That's what you should be looking for. Got it? Now, I've said all this about seeking help with regards to AP, SAT exams, and also with help in your school subjects. Here's where it's a little different, okay? When it comes to college admission and you're seeking assistance on college admission, okay, you should be looking for something a little different because it is a one-time thing, right? College admission is a one-time thing. Now, there are some skills that carry over. For instance, learning how to write a personal statement, learning how to present yourself. These are all skills you're going to need for going on interviews for jobs, right? So these are all skills you should be developing, and maybe you could seek out help with that, with being a better professional in the way that you present yourself. Okay, that's all well and good. But when it comes to things like, let's say, how to write my personal statement and getting edits on them, okay, you do need somebody who can help you with this particular task, right? It's very task specific, okay? And so the help you're looking for is going to be a little different than the help that I suggested you seek when you're trying to learn how to learn, okay? So what does this actually look like? Okay, one, you need somebody who has experience reading through a whole shit ton of college essays. Okay. Here's the thing, students, when you like this just like an English class that you might be taking, right? You write an essay for an English class. The students read their essays and they might read the essays of the friends they have next to them. So like a few more essays, right? On the same topic. But the teacher has to read all of your essays, right? What does that do for the teacher? The teacher has a better sense of what a quality paper looks like, not necessarily because they know more, but in part because they have exposure to more. You need people who have actually reviewed a lot of essays. Okay. I'm telling you this right now from experience. I feel bad for the students that I worked with, like this is maybe about 18 years ago, right? A long time ago, where I didn't have as much experience. Now that I've read through thousands of personal statements, I have a good sense of what hits and what doesn't, right? And it has to do with a lot of factors. It's not any of these like things, we'll talk about this, but it's not any of the things that you get at least quick responses for, like write on this topic or don't write on that topic. It's not that. It's the writing style, it's the way that students present themselves. You develop an eye for it because you read so many of them. You need somebody who has that experience, okay? You could develop that to some degree by reading as many personal statements as you could get your hands on, okay? And then seeing how they did in terms of their applications. But what you need is somebody who professionally looked at this and then went through them, went through one after another, that developed an eye for knowing what works and what doesn't, okay? Here's a second thing, right? And this is more of a pitfall to avoid, okay? If you've been following me up to this point, then you should have it in your head that college admissions is partly your work, but that meeting good luck, right? What I mean by that is there's nothing you can do to guarantee admissions into any particular place. You could improve your odds, but you can't guarantee admissions anywhere aside from, doing something shady like paying somebody off, okay? Which I recommend you don't, okay, just to be clear, okay? You're not going to get a guarantee, right? And in fact, the writing statement, here's the harder part. You don't know whether the writing statement, right, the personal statement that was written actually contributed to helping them or hurting a student getting into a university, right? So anybody who tells you that they know the secrets to how to write a personal statement to get you into a particularly good college, right, or the college that you want to get into, okay, if they say that to you, you know they're full of shit. They're liars, okay? They might be meaning well. They might believe themselves. They're liars, okay? Your personal statement doesn't guarantee shit. It doesn't guarantee anything at all, okay? So if somebody is feeding you lies, you should have, right, red flags, right? You should have your ears perked up and be thinking, something about this doesn't sound right, okay? Here's another red flag, okay? I know a lot of academies, right, these after-school places that offer college consultations and college admission help and all that they will flaunt all of the different universities they got their students into. Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Berkeley, yada, yada, yada. They'll brag as a marketing tool about all the places that their students have gone. In fact, some of these places will actually have their students write out some sort of statement talking about how helpful their program was to help them getting into the university and how excited they were when they got in. Okay. If you see that, A, ignore it at the least, or B, call them out on it. Call them out on it, because that's a bunch of shit. Okay. Look, the reason you get into university probably has 90% of it has to do with you and what you did. It has to do with you and what you did throughout your time in high school, right? And throughout your life. It's about you, okay? The personal statement could help push you over the edge, but again, it's a luck game. I don't know what a particular college is going to like or not like about your personal statement. All I can do is make your personal statement look as good as it can to as many eyes as possible, right? To make it as informative as possible for as many people as possible, so that it improves your odds, but you never know, right? You might get somebody who reads your essay and for some reason it doesn't click with them or something or another, but it's like a one-off, right? It's because of the specific reader and the fact that they didn't give you a particularly high score on the personal statement. Or it might have nothing to do with it. Maybe they didn't even pay attention to your personal statement, right? It didn't help or hurt. It had nothing to do with it. Your admission had to do with all the other metrics that they were looking at, right? Every college is going to be different in exactly what they're looking for and what balance they're looking for and the types of students they're looking for. So if anybody takes credit for a student getting into a particular college by saying we helped them get them there by getting them a particular SAT score, or we helped them by with our college consultation, or we helped them by, helping them with their personal statement in such and such a way, they're full of shit. They should not be taking credit for it. The credit should be going to the student. You're the one doing the hard work. You should be getting the credit. People can be there to help you along the way, and they should deserve some credit for helping you, but they're not the ones who got you in. That is absolutely false. 100%. Okay? So look out for those red flags. Okay, what does this actually mean? Okay. Well, here's what it means. When it comes to seeking certain kinds of help, unfortunately, you're going to have to pay a shit ton of money to get good help. And this is particularly true when it comes to college essays. Okay. The people who are most equipped to be able to give you good guidance are people who have been on admission committees. But guess what? Those people who are in admissions committees, they are very, very talented. They have a great resume. If they choose to spend the time to work on you with your college essays, it costs a lot of money. I know this because I've been in that industry. I could be charging a lot of money for this, right? I offer free to my PCC students when they're transferring over to a UC or Cal State. I help them for free, but I always tell them, like, look, this is not something that is usually offered. This level of in-depth one-on-one feedback is something that you usually cannot get for free, and definitely cannot get good help for cheap. It's going to be expensive. So what are your options? Well, this is why I created this podcast, okay? I'm going to try to give you at least some guidance from my own experiences. And if we get enough people participating, sharing this podcast to let them be familiar with what we're doing here, if we get enough people, I am wanting to do some live streams where we could talk about, have honest conversations about what kind of strategies work and don't and why. Because what I'm finding, I've checked on YouTube, on podcasts, is there's a lot of good general advice, but those general advice might not apply to you specifically. You need the one-on-one help in this particular area. And unfortunately, this is one that the wealthiest are the ones who are going to have access to the useful help anyways. Okay. But that tells you a couple of things, right? There's a lot of people that offer you help, that offer you some sort of, maybe not a guarantee, but they sell you a kind of dream of what you can get. Okay. I want you to be careful when you're seeking out help. And I hope that at least I gave you a couple of things to kind of look out for so that you have the right tools to figure out what kind of help best fits your needs. All right. What kind of help is it that you need at this particular moment? What kind of help is actually useful, and especially for those of you who struggle, right? I've worked with so many students whose parents are middle class. They make, they can make a living wage, but, a lot of these extracurricular activities and, SAT academies, they cost so much money that they're squeezing their budget as much as they can in order to provide these opportunities for their kids, right? I don't want you to waste your money just to not see lasting results. I want you to see lasting results, which means that you need to know, you need to be an informed consumer. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to know what to ask. Okay. So, again, be mindful of what kind of help you should be seeking and how to seek it out. And then start looking for some of these red flags that should help you question whether or not this place is actually doing things in your best interest. Or, again, it might be that they're well intentioned, but they just don't know, right? They're going off of their own experiences, but they don't know because they haven't been on the other side. They haven't been on that admission committee. They don't know what these places are actually looking for. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. We'll start talking a little bit about personal statements specifically. Okay. But like I said, what we're going to have to do at some point is to do some live streams where you could ask your specific questions so that we could unpack your particular circumstances and how to approach the college application or studying generally with regards to your personal needs. Okay. So until then,